Well, here it is. The video everyone wants to see. The video you will never stop watching. 5 tips that will make your art better almost instantly. Things that I've done and continue to do that allow me to make my art much better than I thought I could make it. Now, these tips are not going to be the basic ones that you hear all the time. I'm not going to tell you to draw every day or to use references. I'm not even going to tell you to learn the fundamentals. Though doing those things will help make these tips more useful, I'm sure you're tired of hearing them all the time. These tips are more personal to things that have helped me on my journey. But before I give you these tips that may help you reach your true art potential and beyond, I would just like to say, welcome to Edenwick, a place where I share my dangerous creative journey so that myself and others can learn from it. You will see me write, you will see me draw, and you will see me fail. But most importantly, you will see me grow. If you like art, writing, and videos related to them, then don't be afraid to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, on to the video. Tip number 1. Take your time. I know, not a heavy hitter, but hear me out. These tips won't be grand magical weapons, but they still can instantly help to better your art. A habit a lot of artists have is rushing, sketching fast and rendering fast, drawing lines and jumping to details, even if the idea isn't fully developed, often making mistakes in the process, and then drawing over them, one after the other, allowing small mistakes to build up so that the drawing can be done as fast as possible. But why? Well, personally, I looked up to the professionals. I saw how fast they can get ideas on paper and thought that I needed to do that as well. Practice to be as fast as possible so that I can make deadlines. Even though I knew speed was about experience, I thought that if I didn't practice speed, I would always be slow. Even in gesture drawings, it seemed like speed was an important aspect of the practice. That was the goal, was to be able to draw people as fast as possible. But the moment I started to slow down, I stopped making so many mistakes, and I began to finish drawings in less time, and with better quality too. The truth is, speed isn't just about experience, but about decision making as well. A lot of the extra time a beginner has in drawing is filled with trying to clean up a bad choice made earlier on in the drawing. Taking the time to think about each line and shape limits mistakes and makes the drawing process more efficient. Don't overwork a drawing, of course, just take the time needed to draw as best as you can, and don't be afraid to erase something or start over completely. Now, tip number 2. Sketch out your ideas. This is similar to the last tip, but not exactly. Thumbnails are a great way to plan out a drawing before committing to details that may not end up working. But I'm not just talking about thumbnailing here. This is another tip about decision making, but instead of just thinking about your decisions, you can test them out. Try sketching out the smaller individual parts of a drawing to experiment with how you want them to look and how you might draw them. Not only does this serve as a good way to warm up for a drawing, but it also allows you to iterate on different ideas for a drawing. Draw different poses for the character, different expressions or outfits, sketch a few items that you might want to be in the background, and of course, thumbnail to play with composition. This especially works when you have to draw something you are unfamiliar with. You can take some time to break down the subject before you put it in the final composition. These sketches don't have to be polished or organized. Just free your mind and sketch out any idea you might have. Brainstorm and be free so that you are not stressing over these ideas when it's time to work on the finished product. A way I've started to do this would be to draw what I think I want the thing to look like, an illustration, location, or character design. Then I break down the individual parts that I'm unsure about and scrap what I feel isn't working. I make iterations with the aspects that I looked into and add things I felt the original was missing. After that, you can pick the best one and call it a day, or you can pick a few of your favorites and continue the process. Tip number 3. Step outside of your comfort zones, like all the way. This is one of the biggest things that keep people from getting truly better at art. They draw the same things over and over again in the exact same way. Now, people have gotten good at doing this. Drawing attractive portraits and girls is a popular trend with artists, but depending on what you want to do with your art, you will have to broaden your horizons. I had been avoiding backgrounds, perspective, and complete illustrations for years. Sure, I would study art and practice, but it only ever led me to doing vague concept art with no purpose, when what I actually wanted to do was tell stories, which can only be done in illustration-based formats. But because I didn't make them or practice them, I've limited my growth and progress to a crawl. While I moved closer to my goals by getting good at art, I had nothing to show for it, simply because I was afraid of drawing things that I didn't know how to draw. Other ways this might happen is by taking the easy way out of posing and expressions. You won't get any better at foreshortening if you don't try it. And yes, this does mean you'll be making some bad art, but here's a special secret for you. You don't have to completely finish every drawing, and every drawing doesn't have to be a complete illustration. Start by simply sketching outside of your comfort zone before attempting to apply it on a complete illustration. Fill your sketchbook with failed tries and breakdowns of all the things you were afraid to draw, but don't overdo it. If you start to feel bad about all the bad drawings, go back to drawing what you know, or combine the two, so that you can learn and make good art at the same time. Next, we have tip number 4. Focus on learning one thing at a time. Stop trying to overload your learning apparatus with multiple subjects at the same time. You don't need to study everything everywhere all at once. It's like trying to download a dozen large files at the same time. Your computer just slows down, puts some files on hold, fails to download others, and the ones that do download take forever because of all the extra stuff going on. Most art topics can be broken down into smaller sections that can be digested in shorter periods of time. Not enough to master, but enough to improve and move on to the next level. Portraits can be broken down into different parts of the face. Anatomy can be broken down into different parts of the body, and backgrounds can be broken down into singular objects in perspective. In addition to that, all of them can be broken down into simple forms. Practicing portraits, complex posing, anatomy, and perspective all at the same time can be overwhelming, especially when you add color, light, texture, and so on. Grow in individual topics and move on to the next, slowly building a path of stepping stones rather than throwing your stones around and not knowing where to step next. If you try to do too much at once, you will barely improve, and you will discourage yourself, eventually leading to burnout or worse, giving up on art completely. Now finally, tip number 5. Don't listen to every bit of art advice you hear. There are so many artists out there, good and bad, and they all have tips and suggestions on how to get good or great. But there aren't many actual rules when it comes to learning art, which is why you may hear the same advice all the time. Draw a lot, use reference, study the fundamentals. These are pretty much set in stone. But a lot of the other stuff is personal to people's own journeys and styles. They can be contradictory to others' advice or even to your own style of art. Some advice may even hold you back. Too many times have I seen artists pinball from idea to idea hoping one would be the one to make them better, but it's just not that simple. Sometimes you just have to tune out all the noise, or filter it for artists that fit the vision of who you want to be as an artist. Or even take the time to define your own path based on what you know you need. And stay strong with what you believe in, or you'll just get lost in the endless flow of trendy art solutions and tools. Stop. You don't need that brush pack. It's not the brushes. Save your money and make your own brush pack. But then again, maybe this doesn't align with the type of artist you want to be. And if that's the case, I hope this video was helpful to at least one of you out there. If not, let us know in the comments what could be done better. And if you know of other ways we can level up our art skills, let us know that as well. Also, while you're down there, I would love it if you would subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can see what we do next. But until we meet again, I would just like to say, welcome to Edenwick. But wait, there's one more for the road. Stop drawing your references exactly as is. When you're using reference, even for a study, your goal should never be to make a photocopy. Instead, just try to capture the likeness, the movement, or the emotion. Interpret the image, and then draw what you need from it and change what you can, especially if it's a reference for an illustration. Make it your own. Not only is it more fun this way, it also takes the stress of making a mistake away. In addition to that, if you aren't relying so heavily on your reference, it will be easier for you to draw from imagination later.